What is up, you awesome kissers? It is CistReactZ, guys. Today we're reacting to the FNAF Animatronics are psychic, the science of Five Nights at Freddy's. So make sure you guys hit that like button, spot a game theorist, so make sure you guys subscribe to Game Theorist and comment down below. Make sure you guys do the same thing to my channel as well. Anyway, guys, here we go. Bop! That was not Matt Pat. It's not Matt Pat.
Hi!
I realized it wasn't Matt Pat the second I seen the Google Docs.
I read your book. This one. A little bird told me that you hid some science in it, you little nerd, and so
it's the Austin guy.
And boy, howdy do I have opinions. Okay, so where to start? Did you guys watch
something was unusual.
The one
Matt Pat doesn't talk about science that much. He just goes into game theories,
no.
you know?
Okay. Okay, so you know how in Five Nights at Freddy's there's these evil animatronics trying to kill you? Well, they're
that's pretty
filled
usual.
with ghosts? Filled with robot ghosts? Is that right? Is it robot ghosts?
Filled with robot ghosts, remnant. I guess remnant isn't the spirits anymore. I guess remnant is like rage, like the feelings the dead people left behind put into a substance. I forgot what remnants is, or remnant is. Please someone tell me in the comments below. There's ghosts, remnant, all this crazy stuff, remote control robots.
Let's just start at the beginning.
It's too much.
You feel me? Okay, so the story we are going to be looking at primarily is the first story in the second Fazbear Frights book, Fetch. A story that's about, get this, an evil animatronic. I know, a huge deviation from the formula. Anyway,
God, I never get used to seeing that model of Fetch that they always use on Game Theory.
Universe, as well as give quite a bit of lore and backstory for the games that
the
is
FNAF
sometimes
lore
super
book.
obvious, and at other times it's a little bit more subtle. In this story,
if Scott releases a book, I hope it's just the FNAF lore, just all of it, and he gives it a book cover just like how they did it.
Rules that make up the way
all
the
fancy
Five Nights at Freddy's world works.
And within the book is just a bunch of troll faces.
A tremendous amount of lore fodder to explain how exactly it is that creepy ghosts or agony-powered spirits,
agony-powered remnant, I don't know,
manipulate animatronics to do their bidding. So, okay, in this particular story, Fetch, we follow the internal monologue of an uber nerd named Greg as he struggles to navigate the social mores of high school, and through the course of the story, several real-world scientific studies and theories get dropped as being
the girl he had his arm ripped off by the dog he wanted
random number, or rather random event generation as it pertains to the Global Consciousness Project, and the experiments of Clive Baxter,
the flower
CIA interrogation specialist who used polygraph machines to read reactions from plants in the 60s. And since the plot of the story takes off pretty much right away, we're gonna have to sidestep for a minute to discuss a few of these concepts before moving on, because these three concepts form a triangle of support for one another within the FNAF universe that frames the metaphysical rules of the world and gives us a peek
He's
into
just
the puzzle
staring at me
pieces
from within
that
the triangle.
To make it so
they
that evil
are summoning him
can exist
with
in the
science.
first place. The first corner of the triangle is honestly the least important, and that's the experiments of Clive Baxter. Baxter's experiments in the 60s supposedly were able to register some sort of response from plants using polygraph machines, specifically pain, empathy, and some sort of extrasensory perception. Nobody has ever been able to successfully replicate his studies ever since, and they're commonly thought to be bunk. However, in fact,
makes sense if you can't replicate it properly.
Seem to be a bit more legitimate. The fact that plants are able to pick up on extrasensory
you never left any notes around for anybody to follow?
Extrasensory perception is a real, measurable thing in the FNAF universe, even though it isn't in our universe, which brings us to the second point in the triangle: 0-point fields. 0-point fields sound...
I ain't finna lie to you guys, like, I don't know if I'm the only one in the building who got like it. Well, my joke is ruined. See, the camera was supposed to close up on my face, but it didn't. But I'm not gonna worry about my ruined joke right there. But am I the only one who got like a bad grade in science? So I really hope he dumbs it down for me and explains everything, because like everything up to 0-point energy I've gotten, but I know he's gonna explain the 0-point energy thing right now, and I hope he dumbs it down, because I'm not gonna understand. Science
very
is not my best
complicated,
suit.
but they're actually really simple-ish. In quantum mechanics, there's something known as a quantum vacuum state, which is the lowest possible energy a space can exist in. Imagine a box.
All right, let me actually listen.
State, which is the lowest possible energy a space can exist in. Imagine a box that is a perfect vacuum. It has literally, quite literally, no particles, no photons, no electrons, no nothing. This is a quantum vacuum state. There's no heat because heat is energy stored in particles, and since there's no particles, this space is effectively entirely devoid of energy in every conceivable way, hence 0 point field. It's the point in which there is zero energy.
Thank you for dumbing it down.
The field in this case being
somebody
the
like
space
me is not
itself.
going to understand
But
that.
what if I told
but
you
now I do.
This wasn't the whole story. That in these fields where there is absolutely nothing, something can be created. These somethings are called virtual. These somethings are called.
Come on, you got it.
To say. These somethings
this is me trying to start the beginning of a reaction video.
These somethings are called virtual particles. These somethings are called virtual particles.
Virtual
and are particles that quite literally are created from nothing. Thought that was impossible? Well, it actually isn't. Our universe is a closed system, meaning that no new energy can be put into it and no energy can be deleted from it. And virtual particles are no exception to this, but they do kind of cheat the system. When a virtual particle, a proton or a photon or whatever, is created out of thin air, or rather thin nothing, an antiparticle of the exact same energy level and composition except the exact opposite is created as well. And 1,000,000 times out of 1,000,001, these particles recombine and zero each other out.
That like button if you know what he's talking about.
I know what he's talking about.
If they don't combine immediately, it's no big deal. The antiparticle will move on and collide with something else and remove the required amount of energy from it. This is actually the phenomenon that creates Hawking radiation that shrinks black holes. Mass isn't actually escaping black holes. What's happening is that particles are snapping into existence near the black hole, and sometimes those antiparticles get sucked in past the Schwarzschild radius and remove energy from the black hole, effectively shrinking it. So what does all this have to do with Five Nights at Freddy's and Fetch? Well, a lot, actually, because these 0 point fields, or rather these 0 point energies, are treated as the medium through which psychic energy travels, and may itself actually be somehow sentient. Whether it's just a transmission medium or whether it actually has a will of its own is something that will have to wait for further books if they touch on it at all. But in the FNAF world, well, okay, think of 0 point fields as a Newton's cradle, where a thought or an intention,
I was gonna ask if it has something to do with the remnant, but then again, probably not.
Travels and shoots out the other end, which in turn lifts up before falling down, hitting the field and sending something back. Except this transmission is three-dimensional, not just one-dimensional like the cradle, and it is infinitely more complicated and beyond our understanding. And trying to figure out the best way to make the cradle do what you want is, I don't know, like a monkey trying to figure out how to fly an airplane. You're probably going to end up hurting yourself.
I'm a monkey trying to figure out quantum physics right now.
As for the third point in the triangle, well, we'll get to that later, because for now, we know all we need to know in order to continue building our premise.
Yeah.
So Greg, our protagonist, is an uber nerd who knows all about this stuff.
Oh wait,
in
no,
his
it
experiments
doesn't.
with trying
Just realized
to
it pertains to how they're psychic, not remnant.
From the 0 point
Subscribe to
field,
Game Theorist. I seen that in the background.
And his pals to check out. Hey, wouldn't you have guessed it? A derelict children's pizzeria.
The psychic energy is also telling you to subscribe to CistReactZ to turn on notifications.
Greg is already in an abandoned Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria franchise, looking around for stuff.
And then they all find Fetch.
Because these books aren't a joyful slice of life anime about making soup or whatever. And what they find is Fetch, an animatronic, but not quite like the ones we're used to seeing in the franchise.
He looks so terrifying. Deactivated.
He's smaller, a lot smaller. He's a prize, actually. One of the super awesome prizes you get for spending $1 million in the store. Basically, Fetch is a Furby, but FNAF branded, aka barely more terrifying than an actual Furby. This
more like
is what was
terrifying,
Greg to drag
more
his
terrifying
into this pizzeria. As
Furby.
stated in the book itself, Greg turned his attention to Fetch. He wanted to see if he could get the dog thing to do whatever it was supposed to do. he had a hunch this might be what he'd felt in the field, what had called him here.
Oh, so what he was talking about pertains to like what was kind of drawing him to fetch.
The capability to sync with your phone and retrieve information and things for you, like a creepy real-world version of Siri. You love to see it. Anyway, in his fiddling, Greg unknowingly
iPhone with eyes.
After they leave the pizzeria, starts texting Greg, retrieving things for him, saying creepy stuff, and over time, getting things for Greg without Greg actually directly asking, taking his request too literally, leaving severed fingers on his doorstep, and killing his girlfriends. You know, all the stuff Alexa secretly wants to do for you, but can't because she doesn't have legs or creepy, spiky teeth. Which brings us at last to the final corner of the triangle of FNAF metaphysics. Random event generators and the global consciousness.
Never mind,
project.
REG.
Because this is the key that holds everything together. How is Fetch able to sync up with a phone that runs on an operating system over half a decade more modern than when he was created?
Does he connect to it with
this triangle,
with
this
the 0-point field?
Of ingredients of science, numbers, and pseudoscience that all mix together into a soup of
more of an idiot,
and terror, culminating in one simple, horrific ability. The ability to manipulate not just computer code, but the very world around you, just with the power of your mind.
I should note, even though I'm talking through it, which I'm supposed to do because it's a reaction video, I am 100% listening to him, by the way. Everybody always thinks because I talk, I don't listen, but I am listening. So
random event generators, or REGs,
you think I'm not listening? I am.
Subject in Fetch and come up
That'll probably help me not get killed
and again, and they're a key tool in the study of global consciousness, a field of parapsychology, which is it's not real. Sorry, it's not. There's no support for any of these fields at all, and all supposedly interesting findings have all failed to be replicated by independent review. It's very, very important to me that you understand going forward that this, out of everything I've said today, probably is the most not real thing in the books, in spite of having a real history. And every study I read on them gave me an ulcer, and some of them even had typos in them. But the general principle is this. Under this field of study, the existence of some sort of extrasensory networked human consciousness is taken as a given, and they attempt to measure it, you know, like good scientists. The method they use is random number generators, machines that are designed to output, you know, what it says on the tin, random numbers. In this case, they output ones and zeros specifically. The people who study this field then try to find anomalies in the number generation, something that's outside the norm, an above average number of zeros or ones in a specific area, and then find a correlation within the real world. Is it hurting your brain yet? Yeah, me too. Me too. Now, REGs produce ones and zeros only, but produces them at random. You're with me so far, right? And this field of science tries to discover ways to influence these numbers through external means, either through the power of thought or by bringing the machines themselves into areas where they expect may have some sort of paranormal thingy going on. You know, haunted places, graveyards, pizzerias, what have you. Now, there are two types of REGs, one that sucks and one that is awesome. And now let's go over what those are, starting with the sucky version in order to show you why the awesome one is so awesome. Okay, but first, how about a magic trick? Want to see something cool? I have psychic predictive powers. Check this out. I'm going to run a random number generator code and tell you exactly what numbers it'll spit out. Ready? 60, 51, 84, 63, 40, 91, 4, 23, and 20. Did I get it? Heck yes, I did. You know why? Totally. Because this thing spits out the same random numbers every time. Look, I'm running it again, and again, and again, and again. Why is it the same every time? Because random number generation, while random-ish, is also predetermined, and most of them follow the same basic principle. They have a seed, a P1, and a P2. You take the seed, multiply it by P1, add on P2, mod 100, don't worry about that, spit out the number, take the number as the new seed, and repeat the formula again. My RNG code uses a seed 3, a P1 of 200.
If it isn't obvious, I'm a little lost. Now I'm a little lost.
63 and a P2 of 71. This is why you'll sometimes hear RNGs called pseudo-random, because they aren't actually really random. They are determined. They're just really, really hard to predict. That is, unless you know the seed and the formula. Even very complicated and secure random number encryption services use this basic model, although with tweaks here and there. They usually use bigger numbers and use smart ways to get get seeds, things that are themselves pretty random, like the exact amps being used by your CPU at a given moment multiplied by the system time or something. This is what's known as using machine entropy, and while it's pretty random, it's still, you know, boring. You know what's less boring? Quantum randomness using 0-point energy fields. And this is how the really good, fun RAGs work. They are random number generators generated not by the, frankly, predictable methods of a computer algorithm. Rather, they pull random numbers literally out of thin air by measuring the actually random but consistent fluctuations in 0-point energy fields themselves. And Greg and his crush Kimberly are assigned by their teacher to spend time with his REG in order to attempt to influence the machine through sheer will to output the numbers that they want.
They use the Monica model just because
that's called
she has like the same attributes
but Kimberly actually registers significant deviations from the norm, and it's here where you've probably started to see how all these things tie together. 0-point energy fields in the FNAF world are the weave through which thoughts and intentions flow, measurable by the Baxter methods and controllable by those who know how to use them. That said, as we learned with computer-generated RNGs, something being determined and controllable doesn't necessarily mean you know how to control it yourself. Do you know what number, for instance, comes after 20 in my RNG code? Do you? It's 31. And maybe, if you had enough time knowing my formula, you could actually figure that out for yourself. But what if I asked you to tell me what seed you needed to input in order to get me a 98 on the 11th number? Would you be able to do that? These are the forces at play here. Even if something like this were even real, if outside metaphysical forces were able to impact the world itself, it'd be very hard to pull off correctly. Seed number, by the way, would be 5.
My God.
In the FNAF world, this is shown to be possible.
I see why Matt hired him.
Well, the ability to manipulate this field
why deal with all the science when you can get a guy to do it for you?
Is real because Kimberly can do it, but we also know that Greg sucks at it. But you know who I don't think sucks at it? Fetch. I think Fetch is an absolute master at event manipulation. Knows just what energy to put into the quantum vacuum to send just the ripples he needs through the Newton's cradle right into his perfect subject, Greg. He gets Greg to come to the pizzeria, he gets Greg to activate him and free him. And once he's free, how is he able to tap into Greg's phone and hear all of his conversations and maybe even read his thoughts? It's definitely not Bluetooth, it's not 5G. Fetch is able to send ripples through the very nothingness surrounding all of us and influence technology on a fundamental level, beyond machine code, down to the binary. Remember, REGs spit out only ones and zeros, so someone capable of manipulating that sort of thing, the sorts of things that phones run on, someone who is
that was kind of right.
Machine would be.
I just threw that in as a guess. When I said REG, I was kind of. But then, like, when he was talking about how Fetch can manipulate the 0-point field and all that stuff, I was like, oh, well, maybe he can manipulate it. Yeah.
Capable of spoofing a number and overriding systems.
And here I thought I would get it wrong, even if knowing
what's more is that while I'm not 100% certain, I'm pretty sure somehow other creatures in the FNAF universe are going to be capable or are already capable of using these sorts of powers themselves. Even if mostly nobody does, I guarantee you that the Stitch Wraith, at the very least, is going to find some way to use these powers.
Probably another character
this sort of thing isn't real. You can't
Security Breach might
quantum
as well.
fields through the power of your thoughts alone. And you know how I know that? Well, aside from reading up on it, I built one myself. No, really, I did. Through the power of the quantum random module in Python, it was actually really easy. Quantum random connects to the ANU quantum random numbers server in Australia, a server that measures actual fluctuations in 0-point fields for realsies and gives them to the public for free in real time. It's pretty freaking cool.
Dang.
Since it was so easy, it took me literally only 10
minutes
and
Austin guy needs to make more videos.
This
is actually interesting information, though, for real.
Only a 1 or a
jokes out of the way,
failing
science out of the way. This is very interesting to listen to.
The universe itself. My very own quantum.
It's gotta be so interesting that I forget I gotta comment.
Baseline test after 1,000 flips, it did pretty good. 499 ones and 501 zeros, a totally normal split for 1,000 iterations.
Interesting. interesting, but it's also not something I would do on a Saturday night, you know?
Experiment that Greg and Kimberly did in the book. I will disprove this global consciousness theory once and for all. I decided to make my machine using only the powers of my mind spit out more ones than zeros.
You're insane.
For 15 minutes, I sat there as it pinged a server on the other side of the world, telling it 1, 1, 1, 1. Ha! This'll show him. And after nearly getting bored to tears, I can finally tell you that I got 524 ones.
It doesn't seem like he got bored doing this.
Standard deviation past one standard deviation. That's, let me do it again. 530 ones? Wait, do I have magic powers? Wait, does this mean that evil psychic animatronic robots can actually exist? Stay away from that Chuck E. Cheese graveyard, kids. You do not know what might happen.
Yeah, he might turn on and start killing people.
Austin. P.S. Those numbers, while true, aren't statistically
He has taught me
significant.
science and has at the same time hurt my head.
Want to give a huge shout out to my high-level patrons: Jared Beecher, Draven Stanley, Emma Sims, Francis Gagnon.
I think that's the end of the video. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think it was just doing Patreon shout-outs at the end of that. Alright, guys, so that was Game Theory, the FNAF Animatronics are psychic. Like, he had me at some parts, then he lost me at some. But then when he kind of just all summed it up at the end, then I started to understand, as you've seen earlier in the video. So, yeah, pretty interesting theory. If Austin makes another Game Theory video, let me know in the comments below, especially about FNAF. Anyway, guys, if you guys like this reaction, make sure you guys hit the like button, comment below, subscribe for more comic history today. Let me know what you guys think about this video. And, do you think he's right? Do you think he's wrong? Do you think he's crazy? Did you get lost? I don't know. I definitely got lost. You guys are probably smarter than me. Subscribe, turn on notifications. See you awesome customers later. Peace out.